Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, I'm going to be analyzing and talking about the results from the most recent primaries from three states. We had the Florida primaries, the Illinois primaries, and the Arizona primaries. First, we'll look at the Florida primaries. Obviously, Joe Biden blew Bernie Sanders out of the water here, beating him by 40 points here. That was just completely it was a meltdown for Bernie Sanders, and it was to be expected, to be honest. He gained 100 delegates over Bernie Sanders just from the state of Florida alone. And if you look at here, you'll see that the math does not add up to 100 because it only adds up to about 85%. A lot of the vote actually went to Michael Bloomberg. I think it got about 8% of the vote. A lot of the Jews in Florida, a lot of the older voters liked Michael Bloomberg, and a lot of those voters would have gone to Joe Biden over Bernie Sanders. So, assuming that Michael Bloomberg had not joined the race, it would have been even worse for Bernie Sanders, and Joe Biden would have won by a lot more. But in terms of my prediction for Florida, I predicted Joe Biden would get 160 to 60 delegates. It looks like it's going to be an even more lopsided win for Joe Biden, just due to the fact that of the candidates that were viable, since due to the fact that only Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders were viable, the delegates that are allocated in that sense, it is going to be more to Joe Biden's favor than I had predicted. But my prediction was actually pretty decent. For next, we'll go to Illinois. In Illinois, I predicted it would be 105 delegates for Joe Biden and 50 for Bernie Sanders. It is looking like that could be pretty much accurate. On this, it has 59 to 36. I had it at 67 to 32, so I was about 5 points off, but I still think that's pretty good of a prediction. Obviously, Joe Biden, if we look at the county map in Florida, actually, we'll first look at the Florida county map, obviously, just to show you Joe Biden won every single county in Florida. If we go down to Illinois here, Joe Biden won every single county except for one county where Bernie won by 3 points. You see, Joe Biden was able to win by a large margin in Cook County, which is the largest county. Obviously, turnout was down, but if Joe Biden has obviously been able to turn out black voters, but due to the coronavirus, the turnout was down overall. But it proves that Joe Biden has been able to win across the board because he's won in these rural counties that normally go Republican. And obviously, this is a closed Democratic primary, but it shows that Joe Biden can win over the rural white voters that Bernie won last time, who they chose Bernie over Hillary. Now they're choosing Biden over Sanders. So obviously, if you look at Illinois, my prediction was about 5 points off there, but overall a pretty good prediction. I predict Biden landslide, and it was a Biden landslide in Illinois as well. Next, and finally, the final state of the night, we will look at Arizona. In Arizona, this was meant to be a closer state, and yeah, it was a closer state. If we look at my prediction for the state, we show that it was, it'll show that it was, I predicted it would be a closer state, and it was a closer state. You know, nobody really expected Bernie to win, obviously. If we look, let's just go through here, see. Okay, so I predicted 65 to 34, and it's going to be 43 to 31. Obviously, only 76% of the vote has been counted. What we have seen, the trend that we have often seen, is that the early vote for a lot of candidates like Michael Bloomberg, Pete Buttigieg, whatever candidate it is, that vote number goes down once more votes are counted. And you look, it just looks like we're going to see something similar here because we see that 75% of the vote is made up of Biden and Sanders. Obviously, we have Tulsi Gabbard here, but she's not going to be doing anything important. She might run third party, which would be an interesting prospect. But if we're looking at Biden and Sanders, they only make up 75% of the vote. But with 76% of the vote reporting, you can expect that number to go up, as we've seen in the trends with a lot of other states. Because we saw with Florida at first, when the vote was about 10% in, we saw Michael Bloomberg was at 15% of the vote. Now he's down to about 7-8% of the vote. And you'll see something similar happening there, which is why you see that my prediction might be a little bit off. I had it 44 to 23 in terms of the delegate number, and it looks like that's going to be pretty accurate as well. I might have over predicted Bernie Sanders in this situation, but we'll see how the delegate math turns out. That might not be a bit later, and you see, we might not have another election for a while. We do have Puerto Rico coming up soon, I am pretty sure. We have Puerto Rico, yes, March 29th. Democrats abroad have still not been counted yet, but Puerto Rico is March 29th, and after that, we do not have any till April 4th, but the date currently is March 18th, meaning that we do not have any primaries for a while, which leads me to the point of this article saying Bernie Sanders says he is assessing his presidential campaign. there have been many calls for him to drop out of the race because obviously looking at this, the total delegate count so far, Biden 1,091, Bernie Sanders 778. Obviously, that's a 313 delegate lead. That's pretty much impossible to overcome because looking at the delegate map here, we saw Georgia was supposed to be next week. It is now May 19th, but Georgia would have gone to Biden easily, and Ohio would have gone to Biden easily. We see New York and Pennsylvania. Wisconsin might be a bit closer, but you really see no path for Bernie to make up a 300 delegate deficit. But a lot of the people are saying that he should stay in the race purely for the ideological and revolutionary reason. Obviously, Tucker Carlson called him the worst, or well, it was something along the lines of worst revolutionary ever, which I would agree with. He hasn't been able to win, unlike many revolutionaries from the communist dictators that he supports. But he has not decided if he's going to drop out yet. Obviously, he has not dropped out yet, but it says he is assessing his campaign, his presidential campaign. I do think that he will drop out sooner rather than later. I don't think he's going to take it to the convention like he pretty much did last time. But there is still a chance that he stays in just to nudge Joe Biden a little bit to the left, saying for the Bernie Bros, we're not going to vote for Joe Biden unless you take on some of these policies. And Joe Biden has actually done some of that. I think he took up the free college for people only making under $125,000 a year, which is the majority of the people in the country. But Joe Biden has taken on that strategy, and you might see Bernie Sanders stays in the race to aim at getting Biden to pick up more of these strategies, but just to prove that Joe Biden pretty much has secured the nomination, we see that. A new poll came out today with Biden up by 44 points in what was supposed to be next week's primary in the state of Georgia. Not going to be anymore, but we look ahead to the general election. It looks like Biden is going to be in a very good position. We saw that it is going to be a very much closer race, but we can only look at so much of the polls to guide our decisions. The polls aren't everything, but the polls look good in the Senate if you're Biden. You see Mark Kelly is up by 6 points in the Arizona Senate race. In Colorado, it looks like it's going to be a flip. We had some main polls that showed it to be a flip for the Democrats, although they might have been Democratic skewed polls. But looking overall, Democrats would be in a pretty good position. If we look at the stock market too, we won't look at it now, but it is down over 10%, which is an absolute disaster, but it could aid Joe Biden's election chances and hurt Trump's re-election chances because all the gains of the Trump presidency, it's in the Dow Jones at least, are now gone, and that's going to be a very bad thing for him because he was planning on running on the economic factor. We might see a recession coming. I'll talk about that in a later video, but just to recap it now, if you're Joe Biden, you're in a very good position because you've 100% basically secured the Democratic nomination. Now you have to look ahead to the general election, and while you may not be able to campaign at this point, you can see, okay, I'm doing well in the polls. I just got to keep to my message, maybe get some of those Bernie voters on my side, and then you're in a good position. And it does still look like Trump has a chance, even if there is an economic recession. We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen how that's reflected in the polls. His approval rating's gone down a little bit. If we look at his approval rating here, it has taken a bit of a hit. It peaked at around 47%. It is now down to 40, or it peaked at 46.3. It is now down to 44.1, which is not too much of a difference, but it is a decrease as we've seen throughout much of his presidency. I don't think it'll get down to the levels of this that we saw at the end of 2017, where he got down to 37.1%. That was pretty bad for him, but as you can see now, his rating's taking a little bit of a hit, and it'll hurt his re-election chances. But if you're Joe Biden, you're in a very good position now. You've just swept all the primaries, and you can look ahead to the general election now once this coronavirus stuff ends, which I don't know when it'll be because Trump says it'll be on by July or August, which could just be a complete disaster for everybody. But yeah, I just wanted to recap some of the election results and look a little bit ahead to the general election. See how it's going to affect it. This will affect it, the coronavirus and everything, but this is mainly looking at the primary results. But yeah, I hope you all enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe as always, and I will see you guys later.